Obviously, the big story is what's going on with Brock Lesnar. A lot of stories going around, a lot of rumors. Jeff Nowitzki claimed there's nothing to the stories of him entering the USADA pool. What's going on, Dave?
That's a really good question. I think it's pretty obvious. The last time his contract was due, which was 2015, this exact same thing happened, where it was he wants to go back to fight. He felt that his career, he didn't get to do what he wanted in his career because he was hampered the whole time by diverticulitis, and now he's healthy and he wants to go back. And then, lo and behold, he signed a 3-year contract with WWE. Although he did get to fight once during that period and made a lot of money. He probably made about as much last year in one fight as he made in the entire, it was about 50-50 is what he made in his entire year working for WWE. So there's advantages of both. I mean, it's especially since he did win the fight, although he did end up getting fined for failing the drug test. So he's 40 years old. In fact, he just turned 40, which is pretty old to go back to UFC. But, I think that when the heavyweight division, there's a lot of money that he can make. And especially now, because UFC's in a really weird position. They're having a terrible year. And because of that, Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey are proven draws. And they want them to fight. And Brock is, give Brock a big money offer, and he's willing to listen. So what's going to happen? I don't know. Brock is, he's, the stories that Brock is going to be done at WrestleMania and he's leaving to go back to UFC, I wouldn't take that seriously at all. It could happen, but as best I can tell, he has not made that decision at all, and he's probably not going to make that decision for a long time.
Well, hold on. Let me say something here. So I heard people talking about Brock being done at Mania, but I didn't hear the 2 and 2 being put together where he's done at Mania because he's going back to UFC. The impression I got from hearing that was he wants to do a huge money UFC fight, probably at the end of this year, make a ton of money, and finish up this contract at WWE, and then he would just be done. Like, not going back to UFC, but just, he made his money, he's 40 years old, and he's done.
Yeah, I don't have that impression at all. My impression is he's either going to, that he's going to do what he does, which is going to be, he's going to hear both sides, he's going to get the numbers up, and then he's going to do what he's going to do. WWE makes the most sense. I certainly have heard that there's nothing to the idea that he's done at Mania. He could be if he goes to UFC. As far as fighting in UFC goes, he can't fight in UFC for a while. Jeff Nowitzki said that he has not submitted to, he's not announced he's out of retirement. He's not submitted himself to drug testing. He's not in the drug testing pool. I was told today actually that he is putting himself in the drug testing pool because if he wants to fight, he's got to get in there because right now his 1-year suspension was frozen in the middle of February. So he's got 5 more months of suspension time. So if he wants to fight, and I was told he's not going to fight in 2017, that it would be in 2018. The problem with that is if he fights in 2018, he could still, the Madison Square Garden thing it cannot happen because his suspension, if he goes into the drug testing pool tomorrow, it would be the middle of December before he could fight. So he could do the New Year's show. That would be possible. I was told point blank today that he's not doing that show, that he would be interested in fighting in 2018. If he's going to fight in January 2018, that puts him out of the Royal Rumble and it risks WrestleMania. So that becomes an issue with WWE. So I think the whole thing is like everything is really premature to say anything definitive other than obviously he's talked to them from UFC side. They're very interested. They want him. They know he's a money draw. They need money draws. Yeah, he knows his leverage. So, I just remember, like I said, I remember 2015 where he was going to go and all this, and then he showed up and said he signed a 3-year contract with WWE. The other thing with the contract with WWE is it's a 3-year contract which expires at WrestleMania, but there's 2 option years involved in the contract, I believe. But there's definitely an option in the contract in the sense that the contract will keep going unless one side or the other cancels. And my impression is WWE has no interest in canceling the deal. And I can't, again, Lesnar makes so much money for, I don't want to say so little work, but compared to everybody else, so little work that, I don't see the idea that he's going to turn down millions of dollars for limited dates unless the idea is that he wants to concentrate fully on fighting, figuring that he can make next year more money in fighting. If he fights twice a year or 3 times a year, he could make, double, triple what he makes in WWE. And time is running out to make that money. The question is, does he want to make that move? When he was 37, 38, he did not want to make that move. The WWE move sounded like the better move. At the end of the day, at almost 41, which would be when he is in April, I can't imagine the WWE move not being the better move. Having said that, perhaps for 2 fights, if he thinks he can do 2 fights for a year, he'll do that. He's going to make his decision based on, the money and what he thinks he can do. He's not a young guy. But this would be, in theory, this would be his last chance to make giant money for less work and his last chance to do competitive sports, which I think he really does want to do competitive sports. I think there is something to that. I think that there's also something about not really wanting to get hit in the head, but, he fought Mark Hunt, who could hit him in the head really hard and did whack him a few times in that fight. And I think that maybe that helped his confidence because he took the punches. He wasn't hurt badly, but he also was really big in that fight. And he also failed a drug test. So there's a lot of different things going in. And, like I said, I don't take anything definitive other than he's very clearly interested in UFC. And if he puts himself in the drug testing pool, that kind of tells you that he's interested in fighting in 5 months from now. If he doesn't, that obviously delays it. So that's the basic situation with him.
All right, we got the WWE Battleground pay-per-view.
Real quick. As far as opponents go, so Stipe Miocic has got a contract dispute going right now, and that name was the first name that was thrown out. And plus, I know UFC wants Stipe Miocic against Cain Velasquez. That's all up in the air. That would be normally I would say that would be a tough one in the sense that Lesnar, Lesnar's only fought once. He got a win. He was suspended for the win. Then putting him in Stipe, it's not really a good idea, but it is a money fight, or it's the biggest money fight they can put Stipe in. There's always the Velasquez or Overeem fights to do back. I don't know if he would want to do that. There was a time when I heard those were the 2 fights that he really wanted. There is the John Jones thing, which, that's the biggest money fight of all, is Lesnar and John Jones. And it's a very intriguing fight. It's a fight where I think that Lesnar could make, what would I say? Probably $7-8 million in one night for that fight. He'd probably lose, although he's a lot bigger guy. But I don't see him winning that fight at all. But that's a lot of money to be made in one night, and I don't see him winning, and I do see him taking some damage, but I don't see him getting hurt that bad in that fight. And so that's a possibility as well. So it's got to be. The fight's got to be a big fight, because if it's not a big fight, it's not going to draw big. And if it's not going to draw big, it's not worth his time or their time. So I can't think of anyone else really off the top of my head. The heavyweight division's so depleted. And I think that may be one of the things that draws him to UFC is the fact that aside from Miocic, the guys aren't that much younger than he is. I mean, as far as like most of the top guys, Kane's younger, but he's hurt. Miocic is what, 34, 35, be 35 next year. Junior's a little bit younger, but Junior, I can't see him fighting Junior Dos Santos. It's just a fight, even though they had built it up and they were going to do it at one point. It's a fight that doesn't really make sense at all. It's a dangerous fight for Brock, and it's not a big money fight. I don't know. I mean, Frank Mir's out of the question. He's been released by UFC, so his suspension's frozen as well. So that one, which actually would be, at one point, that was fight that was being talked about, was Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir, their third fight. I mean, that would be they would talk that up, and that would have been a big fight. But I think that ship has sailed. And Overeem, Verdum. I don't know. I don't see Verdum as a money fight for Lesnar. Although Verdum and Lesnar are roughly the same age. I think Verdum is maybe a year younger. So, that's